All right, let's bring you back here now north of the border. And I want to bring you to a live shot, actually, that we've been watching this morning. And this is at Yonge and Bloor, where you can see this is one of many businesses now boarded up. This is the Nordstrom. There was a peaceful protest last weekend, but with officials monitoring plans for more demonstrations this weekend, some are concerned. There are concerned the rallies may turn tense, as we've seen in the U.S. So I want to begin here, and with that, plus all of your COVID news, let's bring in Mayor John Tory, who joins us via Skype this morning. Good morning to you, Mayor.
Good morning, Mel.
I want to look at those shots. I drove in this morning and noticed every day more businesses starting to board up in anticipation of what we could potentially see this weekend. As mayor of the city, what are the optics in seeing some of the businesses doing that, and what is your message here?
Well, the optics aren't good, but my message is that I really, really hope that the kind of affirmation of Toronto values and the Toronto way of doing things, which manifested itself in a very peaceful protest, very peaceful but heartfelt protest by people who feel justifiable hurt and anguish about events we see going on around us when it comes to anti-Black racism and anti-Indigenous racism, that nonetheless we can do this on a continuing basis the Toronto way. Which just says that we protest peacefully, we make our views known, we push for action, but that we don't engage in that kind of senseless violence that we've seen in the United States, which I think is the work of, people who really don't reflect the majority way of doing things there, but for sure not here.
Mayor Tory, we've heard from Prime Minister Trudeau, we've heard from Premier Ford speaking about the systemic racism that does exist, and I think we need to acknowledge that. What is your take on where we stand in our city and what work needs to be done?
Well, I think we were out ahead, actually, in terms of measures actually undertaken. Under my leadership, we established, I guess, 2 years ago now, at least 2 years ago now, the first in North America confronting anti-Black racism unit inside the city of Toronto. And it's been working with the police on improved training. It's been working on, various programs in the community to make sure we can stop something that has gone on for a long, long time. The notion that anybody would deny that there is some element of systemic racism in Toronto or other places in Canada it's just not realistic. I mean, the fact is that you have a different experience in your life if you are Black, or for that matter, brown, or in some cases, Indigenous and other kinds of racialized communities. You have a different experience walking into a store. You have a different experience driving a car. You have a different experience in your job. Some of the most senior people here at City Hall that I sat down with who have done well in the public service and risen up to the top ranks, but who are Black, have told me of some of the obstacles they faced on the way there. So that we've just got to deal with these things and do various things to address them, better training, more education, and also address some of the deficits that have arisen as a result of that in terms of trying to help people lift themselves up and have a fair shot at being everything they want to be, especially the young people.
You mentioned the anti-Black racism unit. We did feature them yesterday here on Breakfast Television with our Tammy Sutherland. A number of recommendations put forward. Do you see the implementation of these recommendations being expedited or perhaps even beefing up the unit itself?
I had a meeting with probably some of the very same people that are Anthony Morgan and Denise Campbell and others yesterday to talk about exactly that. We were moving ahead with these things anyway, but, like a lot of things, there are opportunities that present themselves sometimes to give you an extra impetus to speed things up and to make even more progress, and progress that is visible and can be felt by the Black communities in Toronto. And so the answer to that is yes. We discussed some things yesterday we can move forward with on a more expedited basis so as to have the community, those who protested so peacefully in that Toronto way last weekend, understand that was an effort that helped to produce more attention and more results for us, including on policing, where we've done a lot. And the biggest thing we're doing now is community policing, where we're putting officers into communities, and they're going to be there for 3 years at a time. They're going to be sort of walking the beat in that old-fashioned way, but hopefully in so doing, restoring the trust that was eroded over time. And it's not useful to sit and point fingers of blame on that. It's just useful to do something about it, which we're doing through the Community Policing Initiative. And that was part of the police budget for this year. So when people talk about cutting that back, they're going to cut back some of the initiatives we put in place to precisely address some of these issues that we have in our community.
When we speak about community, there is a perception right now. We are looking at this latest SIU case. I know you cannot speak to the latest when it comes to the death of Regis Korchinski-Paquette, but can you speak to what you hope comes of this investigation from both sides?
Well, the first thing I hope comes from it is a quick result, because at the end of the day, it strikes me that the kind of time to be doing these interviews is faster than they've been doing them. We've had almost a week, I think, or maybe about a week past now since that tragedy took place. And, it doesn't help to have time pass by and have all kinds of speculation and media reports and whatnot going on in the face of a real tragedy that really has a lot of people very hurt and angered and upset in the community. And I understand, including starting with the family members. So I just think they should get at it. I know they are. We should stop having leaks because they don't help. Whether they're leaks that are accurate or not, it doesn't matter. They're just not helpful to getting the whole discussion going into an angrier kind of debate. And they should get on with that. And I think that'd be the most important thing. They are a body, I can assure people, that are completely objective. In fact, the police people don't like them much, and that's a proof positive of the fact that they operate independently. And they will come to a conclusion. And then if that conclusion isn't for some reason satisfactory, we can see where we go from there. But I think that's the first thing we've got to have is their report soon. And get the interviews done soon. The other thing about interviews is if you don't do them right after the event that you're investigating, people are going to forget things. And so I just think we got to get on with that.
Thank you for that, Mayor. I do want to get to COVID-19, of course. We're looking at rebuilding of our city. And let's first begin with the mobile testing. We are live at one location right now. It's the second pop-up that we're seeing in the Scarborough neighborhood. Hundreds we saw turn out just a couple days ago. Your take on how this is all going, as well as contact tracking, because the tracking of these cases is so very important.
I think the tracking is going well. We had some work to do on making sure we got it up to the kinds of standards that have been set, and there's been a big improvement. And they've started with 50 people doing the tracking, which for people who are watching that don't know is the kind of detective work that comes up after a positive test, where you then go to the person that has the positive test and say, where were you, who were you with? And it's not in any accusatory way. It's just a way of finding out who else you might have spread the virus from or got it from. And so that work is going much better. We have 500 people now, starting with 50. The provincial testing, I think, started off with a lot of different problems, and they're responsible for that testing. But I think that thanks to, the encouragement of the Premier and other things, they've got their act together better now. And I think these mobile testing sites, I met with all the mayors from the GTHA yesterday, and we all agreed that we should have many more of these mobile testing sites as soon as possible. And I'm sure we're all willing to help to make sure that can be possible so that people can feel comfortable going to get tested, which they should, if they have any symptoms at all or if they have any worry about being exposed to someone with COVID-19. So I think the more of these sites we can have, the better. It's a good thing. And it helps us to sort of ferret out, where people are who have the test, and then you can investigate further from there.
Mm-hmm. As we look towards stage 2 of reopening our city, everyone's asking questions about the patios. No doubt this is going to have that regional approach, as we see a lot of municipalities having zero or very few active cases. Toronto and Peel, very different. What have those discussions looked like with the province, and where do we stand with that potential reopening there?
The discussions with the province are good with respect to patios. I will have a significant announcement today with respect to our plans to significantly make available additional patio space, which is going to be good for people because they'll have a chance to enjoy more patios, expanded patios in places on the streets and sidewalks and other properties nearby existing patios. And that will also help the businesses, of course, because when they come back to business, these patios, they will have perhaps some physical distancing requirements on them so that not every table on existing patios could be occupied, for example. So I think this is going to help a lot. I think it's going to make for a more pleasant summer after a pretty dismal spring and winter that we had. And the province has been extremely cooperative in making sure that's possible under provincial alcohol rules. With respect to the date on which these kinds of patios might open, still don't know. I'm guessing it's going to be a few weeks yet because we still haven't seen the improvement in the numbers that we need, but we're certainly all aiming for something that might come along, let's say in the Canada Day, neighborhood. But I'm just speculating on that. I don't know. It's up to the province to make that decision. We're talking with them every day, and we certainly don't want to see them do it too soon and run the risk of a second wave or some further spread of this virus. So, keep our fingers crossed for something just a few weeks from now, and people will then be able to look forward to expanded patios, not just the good old ones they were used to.
Okay, and in the meantime, we'll hang on to the ice cream trucks and the food trucks. Mayor Tory, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much for discussing all of these very important topics with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mel. Have a great day.
You too.